Yeah, hi everyone. I mean, you have already mentioned it. We are the fully residential school for girls. We have classes from grade 5 to 12, and we are running all the three streams: science, commerce, and humanities. Apart from that, we have very nice extracurricular activities. We like it's kind of a holistic development for girls at Hopetown.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay,
All right.
now I would like to request Dane to start the presentation to speak about the university. So Dane,
Yep.
I will be making you the presenter.
Okay.
Let me just make you the presenter.
I'm sorry, I'm having some trouble with my internet.
Yeah, no problem. It's happening
Actually,
a lot these days. Okay,
yeah.
there we go. All right, so I will. There we go. All right, I'm going to switch to my PowerPoint now. So thank you very much for that introduction, and thanks for taking time this evening to connect with me. Unfortunately, I've never been able to visit Dehradun before and haven't visited your school, although many of my colleagues in international admission through Linden tours and others have been there and visited. I mentioned I have been able to visit Olin School, and it's nice to be able to connect with you again as well. So as she mentioned, my name is Dane Rowley, and yes, I have 2 degrees from Cal Lutheran. It's not the only place where I've been educated, though. I do have a certificate in enrollment management from University of Southern California that I completed about a year ago. And as of Monday, I'll be a PhD candidate from the University of Minnesota. I still will stay in my job at Cal Lutheran, but I'll be doing a doctoral program with the University of Minnesota in international education.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to that and expanding my degrees beyond Cal Lutheran. Although I do love CLU very much. My wife also graduated from Cal Lutheran. My wife is on the faculty at the university in our School of Education, teaching future counselors actually. So it's a place that is dear to my heart, but also is a fantastic place for young people. So when I talk about Cal Lutheran, it's from definitely a biased perspective as an alumni and also as somebody who really does love the place. So I'm going to share some things about the university, an introduction, some of our programs, admission. I even have a slide towards the end that talks a little bit more about what we're doing in this COVID-19 situation in terms of admission policies and how things have adjusted. Some slides I'll go through quickly because I think at the end I want to be able to provide time for you to ask any questions that you would like to ask, not just about Cal Lutheran, but asking university questions about, admission policies that are coming up a lot more lately. I know test optional and test blind movement is really gathering a lot of momentum right now in the US. So if there's other topics that you want to talk about unrelated to Cal Lutheran, I'm really happy to engage in that dialogue as well. So for California Lutheran University, we're in Southern California. One of our advantages is that we are in Southern California, and I think as families look at where to think about for their education, as students think about that, there's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, safety is one of them. Location, the fact that we are close to Los Angeles, but not too close, is really a key point of the value of our location. But of course, in California, there's so many opportunities for things like CPT and OPT for students to obtain experience outside of the classroom. Also, California certainly is not a perfect state, but it is a very welcoming state. And I think as students have expressed concern over the last several years about how welcome they might feel, California is a place where people from all different races, ethnicities, cultures, religious traditions are really embraced and welcomed. And California continues to distinguish itself as a place where immigrants and visitors are certainly welcome. Now, to get a little bit closer to home, so Thousand Oaks is where we are. You can see a map of Southern California and see where we are. We're just halfway between LA and Santa Barbara areas. So as I said, we're close to Los Angeles, but not too close. Families typically are not as interested in sending their child to an urban campus that's right in the middle of the city. We are ranked as one of the safest cities in the United States. It's the city of Thousand Oaks in the Conejo Valley area, which is about 300,000 people. But it still has easy access to LA. It's about 60 to 90 minutes away, depending on traffic. The Hollywood area is close, as well as the ocean. So students really have a lot of access to a global uh, atmosphere, a global classroom, essentially, in terms of internships, research experience, cultural engagement, opportunities to give back to the community through community service. There's so many opportunities for students because of where our location is. But as you can see in the pictures, a really beautiful environment. The picture that you see on the top left of the screen is actually around the center of campus. There's a beautiful park that we have in the middle of campus at Cal Lutheran. And in the summer, although this won't happen this summer, but one of the great traditions we have in the summer is we have a Shakespearean theater company that operates on campus, and they set up a stage right there in that park and produce professionally 2 stage plays each summer that professional actors are
Nice.
hired, and our students are the understudies and the interns for that. So a few other beautiful pictures on campus. You can see kind of a little bit more of the lay of the land. We are a very diverse campus. We're actually designated by the U.S. government Department of Education as a minority serving institution. Essentially, all that means is that there's some different criteria for U.S. universities to be a Hispanic serving institution or any other minority serving institution. The biggest part of that is not so much what the ethnic or racial breakdown is, but more what's the percentage of first generation students that are being served by the university. And about 1/3 of our students are the first in their family to attend university. So what that means, we really provide a lot of resources for students for whom college maybe wasn't necessarily going to be accessible to them. Advising resources, things to really help students in their career planning, to really help them and boost their confidence and their knowledge. We have very robust international student services, students from a wide range of countries and cultures, and we also have intercollegiate athletics. We don't give sports scholarships, so the culture is really more one about being a scholar athlete, not necessarily being an athlete who happens to go to class. So it's a very balanced atmosphere. We do require students to live on campus for the first 3 years, unless they have family within about 30 miles of campus. So most of our international students do in fact live on campus all 4 years. We have some beautiful residence halls. If anything, when we're back on campus from all this, students will have even more space than they did before, because we'll probably not put as many students in each room as we have in the past to spread out students over this next year. But we do have beautiful on-campus housing that's very safe. There are some different policies on campus. We're in a lot of ways a very open campus, very progressive campus. There are some more strict rules that we have around housing. We do not allow alcohol on campus, and there are consequences for students that do engage in that. And then we also have rules that parents like, that a student can't have a boyfriend or girlfriend in their room after I think it's around midnight. So there's some curfew rules that we have with all of our residence halls as well. Beyond that, I will talk a little bit more about kind of religious life or non-religious life on campus in just a moment. So on the academic side, as I mentioned, we really pride ourselves in providing robust, dynamic academic services. We really feel passionately that if we're going to accept a student and enroll a student, that it's not just on the student to ensure their success, but it's really a two-way agreement that we are going to provide support, we're going to provide advising, writing center, peer mentors, tutors, all these things for students to be able to be successful. We also have, and I think many universities have this, although we don't always talk about it, but we also have something called a care team, which is a group of professionals who are skilled in counseling and retention, and they provide early warning support for students who might start to struggle. You know, for many students, receiving a failing grade in a class, in some ways it's too late. And so throughout the semester, that care team is checking in with faculty, identifying if students are starting to show signs that they might be struggling either academically or emotionally or physically. And that care team that comprises many different representatives from offices jumps into action to help students and gives them the support that they need. So there is a really good balance between challenging students and supporting students. Professors will push students to their intellectual limits, but not to the point where they break. The culture on campus is much more collaborative, more about discussion and debate and dialogue. So many universities might be a highly competitive place where students feel like they have to beat out the person next to them to get the top grade. That's not really the culture at Cal Lutheran. It is much more one of collaboration. And so students work together to learn, not just to get the top grade, but to actually have that engaging experience. So a little bit about some of the bachelor's degree programs that we offer. We have about 3,000 undergraduate students, so we're a smaller university, and that's broken up between Bachelor of Arts programs and Bachelors of Science programs as well. We have a newly approved major, so now we have 40 majors and 39 minors in all different subjects. STEM, business are our largest kind of departments or programs, but the newest majors are in hospitality and tourism management, sports management, and in film, so the creative arts as well. And then the largest majors are business, biochemistry, molecular biology, communication, exercise science, and psychology. But no matter what students choose, and I'll show, actually I'll break away from the PowerPoint really quickly, but while I do that, we really focus on experiential learning no matter what students do. So we encourage students to study abroad if they're able, and we have many international students who study abroad. Obviously what's happening right now kind of puts a little bit of a challenge to that. But I wanted to share this screen with you, and there's more than what can fit on one screen, so I'll scroll down a minute. But this is a list of all of the academic programs that we have. So you can see everything from accounting and art down to the humanities and social sciences. Some programs that we do not have that sometimes students are looking for, we do not have architecture. We don't have a bachelor's in engineering. If students want something in that field, they would do a physics bachelor's and then go and do a postgraduate or a master's in engineering. We do have advising programs for students that are interested in law or in medicine as well. And so you can see a wide range of programs, and even within those programs, so for example, psychology, which is one of our biggest departments, you can see we have a wide range of applications or emphasis areas within that as well. We also have a very strong core of liberal arts, and so every student who graduates from Cal Lutheran will have a foundation in arts, in theater, in humanities, things like literature, philosophy, history. Every student will take a class that really discusses issues of gender and race and culture, or they also have a global studies requirement, which means they have to have a class, at least one class, if not more, that focuses on some type of global issue. We want to make sure that we are truly educating leaders for a global society, and that's part of our mission statement, and it has been even before it was popular for universities to be global facing. We've always been, in our 60-year history, a university that is very focused on educating leaders for a global society, people who are strong in character, but also very strong in their vocation and their profession. This is really important as a private university with tuition costs that on paper at least are very high. The reality is over 97% of our students, including our international students, receive scholarships or international grants or both. So we have both merit-based academic aid, we have visual and performing arts aid, so talent-based scholarships, and then we also have need-based grants as well. And those academic scholarships range from anywhere from 8,000 to almost 30,000. We also have a competitive scholarship program called the Global Scholars Program that's only available to international students, and we give out 4 of these freshman awards to international students, 35,000 each year. And we have had students in the past, young people from India, from Nepal, from Bangladesh who have received those awards in the past, as well as students from other parts of the world. And then transfers. We're a very transfer-friendly university. Each year, about 25 to 30% of our new enrolling students are transfer students. So, for example, we have students who are transferring from U.S. community colleges. We also have students who transfer from universities in their home country. So that's something that we're very happy to work with students. And I think that's, for many of your students, that may not have been an option before, but I think because of the situation we're facing with this pandemic, we may have students who want to study in the U.S., but maybe they need to stay close to home and do a year of studies in their home country, but still want to know if they can transfer those credits to a U.S. university. And for Cal Lutheran, the answer is absolutely yes. And I'm always happy to work with students, even while they're taking their program, to help them know ahead of time with a lot of predictability which courses, which credits will transfer, and what that would look like for them to come to Cal Lutheran. In fact, I was a transfer student to Cal Lutheran myself many years ago, coming up to about 20 years ago. So I understand kind of the mindset that transfer students have. We also offer visual and performing arts scholarships, and this is something that maybe is a little bit more unique. We do not require students to major in that subject. So, for example, if you have a young woman who is talented in theater or music or art, but wants to study biochemistry, they could still audition for a scholarship in their artistic field and be a biochemistry major. They don't have to choose one or the other. And what they would have to do if they're not a major in art or music, they would just have to participate in the cultural life on campus. So if they wanted to sing, they would need to join a choir, and joining that choir as an extracurricular activity or as a club would actually fulfill the requirement to keep that scholarship. So what it means is that students who have really put in a lot of time and energy into developing a talent, a passion in the arts, that could actually help them pay for their degree in business or in psychology or other fields. And there is an audition that can be done virtually, or a portfolio review for those students as well. And then finally, international grants. These are based on the demonstrated need of the family. It's not something we look at in the admission process. We are need blind when we are making admission decisions, but after admission, we send out an application to all of our admitted students, or international admitted students, and invite them to apply for additional aid based on parental income, based on maybe the savings the student has. So a family that maybe is still doing quite well may still have need because, at a cost of 60,000 US per year, that gap is still quite large for many families, for most families. And so we cannot meet full need, but we do come pretty close for students who have very high academics. I think the largest financial aid package that we'll have for international students this fall is probably close to about 38,000, 39,000, which gets within less than $10,000 of tuition. So we do provide a lot of support for our international students, both academic and need-based aid. To apply for academic scholarships, all students have to do is apply for admission. It's the process is the same. When I make a decision for our international applicants, I'm also making a scholarship decision as well. So the acceptance letter would actually tell the student which scholarship they received. Now, for the admission process, and this gets into a few other topics that we'll talk about, we do have 2 entry points per year. We use the common application, and so students can choose one of 7 common application essay prompts or statement of purpose prompts. We just recently started accepting, actually about 2 years ago, started accepting the Duolingo English test. Although for most students from your schools, we would not require English. Certainly students who are studying the IB curriculum, and in most cases, students who are going for their state boards or national boards, that we know that because of the way that those really lean into their English speaking skills and academic skills, that for most students from your schools, we would waive those English test requirements. Now, if a student maybe has not done as well in English in their English course, then if their grades are a little bit lower, then we may go back and encourage them to either do an interview with me or to do a Duolingo English test. For the SAT or ACT, we are test optional. That means it's really up to the student. If the student does submit an SAT or ACT score, it will become a part of the overall evaluation. But if they choose not to, we won't penalize them. We are test optional for admission and for scholarships. And I think as you connect with different universities, as your students apply to different universities, there is a tendency for some universities to be test optional for admission. But if you want a scholarship, you have to have the test. I personally don't really agree with that. I think if you're going to be test optional, you should be test optional. So for all of our international student scholarships, we are truly test optional for admission and for scholarship consideration. But if students did very well and want to submit a test score, that's fine. If you as a counselor wanted to check with me before the student submitted a score to ask, is this a good score in terms of Cal Lutheran determination, then I would be happy to do a pre-review of that student as well. And I'll come back to some of those things in just a moment as we talk about COVID-19. Now, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just to show that we do have some great master's programs in business and management. We have some STEM degrees in data analytics, as well as in quantitative economics. The main reason I bring this up is that we have a 4+1 agreement between the bachelor's and the master's for most of these programs, where students could do a 4-year master's or a 4-year bachelor's plus only 1-year master's and complete both degrees in 5 years, where they would actually be taking some master's level courses during their 4th year of studies. So it really can maximize their time while they're studying. And the same is true for education and psychology. These are the two departments, the only departments that we have doctorate programs at Cal Lutheran. We have a doctorate in educational leadership, as well as a doctorate that is approved by the APA, the American Psychological Association, accredited doctorate in psychology as well. So some different ideas about results. Again, some beautiful pictures of campus. In the summertime and the early summertime, it is that green. It does get a little bit drier in the dry season, but as I mentioned, this picture, the top picture is actually from the center of campus. It's a beautiful park. Many universities have kind of a concrete quad that maybe students gather in, but for us, it's a park, and that actually has a little bit of, I wouldn't say it's a river, but a stream, a brook that runs through the middle of campus, which is quite nice. So it's really a beautiful scenic campus. This is really a challenging topic because I think families, in some ways, I don't know if this is true of your schools, parents often care far more about rankings than is really healthy. I think for some students, it can be a place to start, maybe a conversation to have, but it should, in my belief, it should never be a reason why a student chooses a university. Because if a student chooses a university based on ranking or reputation or perceived reputation alone, that's not a predictor of whether they will actually be successful at that university. But I think it's helpful for families to understand that U.S. News World Report, for one thing, is not a government agency. It's a magazine. It's a for-profit magazine. And really, there is no unbiased ranking criteria in the U.S. Almost all of them are magazine companies that are selling advertisement while they're also telling students which colleges they think are good. But there are different categories, and these categories are ranked on the type of universities, the types of degrees. So national universities are the ones that typically are the ones who are well known, that students have heard of, that provide doctoral degrees, that are research universities. Some examples of that, obviously, in California are places like UCLA, University of Southern California, Stanford. All the UC campuses are nationally ranked. Whereas regionally ranked campuses, this would be schools that mostly give bachelor's and master's degrees. The California State University system, the other public system in California, are typically regionally ranked, as are we, because we don't offer a lot of doctoral degrees. And then, of course, we have liberal arts colleges that only give bachelor's degrees, and then regional colleges as well. And really, there's no category that's better than the other, although I think for most students, who really lack that kind of context or knowledge of what U.S. education is about, often think that that a nationally ranked is always better than a regionally ranked. But it really is just about the number of doctoral degrees and the type of university that it is. So just for that context, and I think, again, this is really only useful for families to know whether or not Cal Lutheran is a legitimate university. I think because of some of the controversies that have happened with students from India going to universities that didn't actually exist or that were taking advantage of students, I think it's important for families to see the context of the university to know if it's actually legitimate and if it's a real university. And of course we are proud of our ranking, but again, it's not really the most important thing or the most interesting thing about us. But I think it does provide some context that we are a very reputable university. One of the things that I think is really interesting about U.S. News World Report is that they've shifted their calculation in their rankings to be things that are a little bit more useful. So in the past, a lot of the calculation of rankings was based on inputs, things like GPA, test score. What was the student's percentile from their graduating class in high school? There's still some things that they do measure with that, but more and more they are looking at results. They're looking at graduation rates, what percentage of students finish on time, what percentage of students actually stay or drop out. Another factor that they're bringing into the rankings now, which I think is positive, is what's the social mobility of students from that university. In other words, we take a student from one income or one social level, socioeconomic level, and does the university move them up to a higher earning power, a higher quality of life in terms of their social mobility? And when all those things started being factored into the rankings, Cal Lutheran started to move up significantly. So in the last probably 10 years, went from about 22 in the top 25 to top 10. And really, it doesn't mean that we're denying more students. In the past, it used to be that if a university wanted to increase their ranking, they would just deny more students and be more selective. That's not Cal Lutheran. We accept more students than we deny. And so it really is about access and about providing an opportunity for students. So more important than rankings, I think this slide is probably the most important thing that I will talk about. That how are we actually helping translate what we've done in the classroom, what we're doing in experiential learning to help students on their path towards a productive life. And this is really important to us. So we have doubled the number of career counselors in the last 4 or 5 years. And we haven't doubled the number of students, but we're adding so many more resources for our students to do one-on-one career counseling, to provide them access to different companies that come to campus. But I think one of the more valuable things we do are skill building workshops. So teaching young people, especially students that are interested in things like STEM or humanities, where they're not necessarily as business savvy, maybe they're not great at interviewing, they don't necessarily know the nuances of interviewing in a U.S. culture. These are things we can teach them. How to put together a resume, how to look for a job globally, what are the regulations for international students and their working experience. We even have workshops on how to negotiate salary, which is, I think, a really powerful workshop. In the studies of some of the pay equity issues that we have in the US, and I'm sure in other countries too, where men historically have made more money than women for doing the same amount of work, one of the areas that they've identified as the cause for that gap, which is very complicated and a very complex issue, but one of those things is that men tend to ask for more money, and men tend to negotiate salary more than women do in the workplace. So one of the ways that our director, Cindy Lewis, is trying to help rectify that and provide greater equity and gender parity is to provide workshops to help students develop the skills, develop the confidence to, within the culturally appropriate way, to be able to negotiate salary and really stand up for themselves in a business or in a work environment. So these are some things that are very philosophical, but also very practical, and ways that I think Cal Lutheran really shows its values and the ways that we're trying to help students grow and develop. So we have a great global network of alumni from around the world, including many alumni in South Asia as well. Oh, it looks like I had 2 slides of that. So the last slide that I'll show is just a little bit of information about what's happening in terms of COVID-19 and some things that we are changing. Obviously, as I mentioned, in terms of how can I apply, we are accepting the Duolingo English test if students need that, so they don't, have to worry about a test center being closed. It was a great time for us about 3 years ago to become test optional, so the students didn't have to have the SAT or ACT, because as you know now, those tests are being canceled. And really, for any student who is currently a senior in high school or is going to be a rising senior in high school, there will be no SATs or ACTs. And even if you've had students taking AP tests this week, there's been a lot of challenges. So as the world moves a little bit further away from testing, we're well positioned with that. We're also accepting scanned versions of the documents of letters of recommendation or of transcripts. Those come from the counselors. We'll take those as emails, so we don't right now require the official versions. We are very flexible in terms of deferring. So we have many students who are admitted for the fall. If travel restrictions are not let up, if visas are not available, or if students are just not comfortable traveling until a vaccine is in place, we will defer those students for at least a year, in some situations for more. And we have had students that have asked for deferments for longer than that, for military service or for other things. And as I mentioned, we do have 2 entry points per year. So if students can't get here this fall, then we can defer them for our January term as well. There is certainly an option for students to start online. If the campus is not open for classes in the fall, then we would give the students the option to start online. I think many of your students, if they're like ours, are really tired of studying online, and they'd rather wait until we actually can be physically back together again. There are some impacts from starting online from home. Students obviously would be able to maintain maybe a part-time job, and they could do that, but they wouldn't be able to qualify for any OPT or CPT based on that work experience that they have at home. One of the challenges, and looking towards the bottom, the visas, and I think this is something that for undergraduates is a little bit less concern, but it's not guaranteed that students will be able to obtain a visa. And so this is another factor that students really have to weigh heavily in starting a program online from home, with the hopes of then moving to campus once things become a little bit better. There isn't, none of the universities can guarantee that a visa will be granted. Now, I think the visa acceptance rates are higher for undergraduates in your countries than for graduates, but I think this is still something that is a concern. And my encouragement is always for students to do what is the most comfortable and the safest for them. I would never encourage a student to start just because the university needs more tuition if the student's not comfortable worrying about that visa. Now, we will support the visa application as much as we can. We can do some kind of practice sessions virtually with the student. But as you know, as well as I do, it's not up to us whether or not the U.S. government grants a visa. And so we have to be really upfront. And so any university promising students things like that, I think is really not a positive thing. So those are the things that I wanted to share. My email here is in this last slide, and I can provide this slide to the counselors there at Unibrijj to share with you as well. But at this point, I wanted to open up to any questions that you might have or things that you want to talk about, test optional or COVID-19 or really anything else. So thank you very much for your time again, and I'm glad to take any questions.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Dane.
Dan.
Nice session.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, Linda, please.
I wanted to find out, you spoke about performing arts. What if the student is, say, has done something in Indian classical music or dance?
Mm,
Would there be
yeah,
any?
sorry, go ahead.
I guess she's having some internet
Oh,
issue.
okay, so
Yeah,
I think, yeah,
let me help you with the question.
yep,
Means is being an Indian school, and as I told you about our school, we are very much into extracurriculars in terms of performing arts in music and dance, and we do have music and dance as a subject in grade 12.
okay.
Right. So as you mentioned, you have few scholarship based on performing and visual arts. So she means to say is, do you consider Indian dance and music also for the same?
We would now with dance, we don't give scholarships. Unfortunately, we don't have a academic dance program, but we do have dance clubs that the students could join. They could even start their own
No, no, no.
club for Indian
Then
dance.
I mean,
Yeah,
there was visual. Can you go back to that slide of scholarship?
yeah. I'm actually going to open up the page, the web page that we have for visual performing arts scholarships.
Yeah. So all I want to know is that a student who has done Indian music and dance can apply for this scholarship.
They can apply for it from a music standpoint, but we don't. Dance is not one of the performing
Okay,
arts
they can
scholarships
apply
that we
for
have,
music,
but music.
but they
Yeah,
can apply for music, right?
absolutely. Yep, and the scholarship requirements are here. We do accept video auditions. We don't obviously students don't have to travel here to audition for the scholarship, and we
Yeah, yeah.
collaborate we very closely with the music department on that. So all types of music are welcome, and we do have faculty that represent different countries and different cultures. So we wouldn't tell a student. I mean, if anything, we would love to see that. We have many different types of music and styles and cultures that are represented within our music department. So that would be fantastic, and we would love to see that, and we'd love to see even a greater diversity of musical offerings from the university. Yeah, that would be awesome. And this again, the
Okay.
scholarships could be even on top of what they're given on the academics guide. So a student could actually get an academic scholarship as well as a music, theater, art, or film scholarship as well. And I'll go back to the main Visual Performing Arts website where you can see. Um, oh, there it is. So music production, theater, art, and
Yeah.
multimedia or film are the
What will
categories.
what will like in terms of fine art, you will you be requiring a portfolio?
Yes. Yep. It'd be a digital portfolio, and they need to have at least 10 slides. And it can be a variety of mediums. It doesn't just have to be, um, you know, uh, watercolor or oils. It could be digital art. It could be a combination. And we even had some students who submitted several pieces that they put together, and then also a film that brought it all together. So students are looking more at a multimedia format, which is fine arts in digital form essentially. So yeah, there's options for
Does that
students to
include
do that.
sculpture? Sculpture?
Yeah, that would be included in that. So anything ceramics, sculpture, photography, um, all those things are represented within our art department as well, and students would be able to submit scholarship auditions or portfolios for that. Um, yeah,
Also,
and I don't know.
Jane,
Oh,
I would like to know, do you have maths compulsory for your management programs?
we do. Yeah, there's actually about 3 levels of maths that are required within our Bachelors of Science in Business, and it is a Bachelor's of Science in Business. It's not a BBA. Students must complete a variety of quantitative courses in order to graduate from the program. So they can have different emphasis areas, but no matter what, students will have courses in accounting. There's actually two levels of calculus. that students would have to take in the business program. So we want to make sure that if a student has a business degree from Cal Lutheran, that they do have a strong quantitative ability. Now, for students that are not maybe quite as strong in maths, but they have a passion for marketing or for management, we do have another option, which is the marketing communications degree, which is a Bachelor of Arts. It does not require the same amount of quantitative courses, so they wouldn't have to have business calculus 1 and 2. They may still have, every student has to have a maths to graduate, but they wouldn't. It wouldn't be quite as data intensive in the marketing communications.
Can you elaborate a little more on the sports management for undergraduate program?
I can a little bit, although this was actually just approved last week by the faculty to be included as a new major. So right now, sports management is an emphasis within the business degree, but will become its own separate major. So unfortunately, we don't even have the website up or the curriculum for that published because the faculty just approved it.
It's kind of an specialization with business management.
Yeah, it's still within the same school, but it will be its own Bachelor of Science degree starting this fall. Yep.
Okay.
But again, we don't have a lot of details that are at least published yet, since that was just approved. But I will over the next few weeks, and that's definitely something I can share.
Okay.
I do want to mention really quickly, the name of the university, California Lutheran University, because sometimes students will ask, well, what does that mean? There's such a wide range of private universities in the U.S. that either were or are religiously affiliated. And for Cal Lutheran, that means something very different than it does for other universities. I think for students looking at universities in the U.S. that might be religiously connected, I think the two most important questions to ask are, do professors have to sign a statement of faith to work there, or have some kind of statement of profession of belief? And do students have to attend religious services? For us, the answer to both of those questions is no. We do not require professors to tell us what they believe before they are able to work at Cal Lutheran. So it means that not all professors will be Christian. It means not all professors will be religious. It also means that for many classes, the students may never know what the professor's individual belief might be, because that maybe is not a factor in a biochemistry class. And so it is a place where we really encourage freedom of thought and freedom of belief. We do not require students to attend worship services at Cal Lutheran. We do have many different clubs and services available, but none of those are compulsory. And I think a great representation of the religious life on campus is actually within our own religion department, which is an academic study of religion, and just looking at the types of faith perspectives and traditions that our religion professors share, I think is a really impactful part of the campus as well. Some of the professors have both PhDs in religion as well as divinity degrees within their own tradition. Other professors really are devout in their own faith perspective. Dr. Rose Aslan is a great researcher. She also is really passionate about women in religion and would identify herself and has identified herself as a feminist Muslim, and knows the challenge that is sometimes for her as a Muslim woman in America. Dr. Raldeep Gill, who's one of my close friends, is a devout Sikh and practices that, but also is the leader of our interfaith initiatives at Cal Lutheran, connecting students of different faith and non-faith to do work together and do service projects together. Vic is identifying as a Buddhist professor. He teaches a lot of ethics courses. We have professors who are Jewish, who are Muslim, who are Hindu, who are secular, who are Christian. So really, and that also represents our student body. So in a lot of ways, as a religious school, we're very unique in terms of how open we are to students' own perspectives.
How about residences, Dave?
Yeah.
I mean, like, is it compulsory to stay on campus for first year students at least?
It is, yeah. Actually, it's compulsory for the first 3 years for students to live on campus. We are primarily a residential campus. They can apply to live off campus if they want. The most common freshman residence hall is Peterson and Thompson Hall. you can see the floor plan is a setup where there's actually 2 bedrooms, a common room or living room, and a bathroom. So typically it's about 4 to 5 students share this space. However, our plan right now is to be back on campus this fall. And if we are back on campus this fall, this will shift dramatically. There will be 1 student in each bedroom, so only 2 students will share a bathroom and this common room. We will really want to have much more social distancing. But typically it's about 4 students that share this space in this residence hall. All the buildings are secure by card access, and so only students who live in the building are able to access that building. And if the internet's strong enough, you'll be able to see, this is the open kind of quad of this residence hall, Peterson and Thompson. So it's very community focused. It's a nice facility. It's very clean. We've renovated each hall at least within about 5 to 10 years. We usually go through and new desks, new beds, new carpet, new painting. And of course, because it's Southern California, it's an open area. It doesn't rain very often.
Can students apply through common application, Common App?
Yes, yep, we do require, that's the application that we require, so students can use that. We do have a common application supplement. If students want to apply without the SAT, then they should fill out the common application supplement, as there are some extra questions that we'd want the students to answer.
Okay.
Great questions.
Okay.
May I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
It's regarding the proficiency in English. Is that only for during COVID-19, or does this stand for after, I mean, in a couple of years or 2-3 years down the line? Would you require the child to sit for the IELTS, or would that not be necessary, us being an ICA school?
Right, that's permanent, and that's always been the case, actually. So that's not COVID-19. I think what the biggest change we made with COVID-19 was we adopted Duolingo for our master's programs. We'd already been using Duolingo for bachelors, and we're very flexible with English requirements with students. We don't base the requirements for English on the student's passport country, but on the curriculum of the school they're attending, which does mean a little bit more of a personal approach than just saying, okay, if you're not from an English-speaking country, which I think that's, whatever that means. I think, so we're much more flexible. So for students doing the curriculum at your school, we always have been English score or English test optional, and will continue to be. The only time, in my experience in South Asia, the only time that we've really required a test from a student is if the counselor themselves says, the high school counselor says, this student has struggled. I think that they should take that to make their application stronger. And so really taking your recommendation is where we would follow.
Okay. And under COVID-19, Dane, are you looking, are you open for the transfers next year from Indian universities?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are. And I actually am the one who does the international credit evaluations. And so if a student is going to be studying at a university in India, and even if they're in the middle of their coursework, if they were to send me a scan of their transcript or their course listing, I could even put together an evaluation ahead of time that would show them which courses would count for which courses at Cal Lutheran. We offer transfer scholarships, so and it's a really similar process for students. We have academic scholarships for transfer students. We have the need-based aid as well. So really the only difference is that the students want to know that they're not wasting time taking courses that won't transfer. And so that's something that we can work with the students on. I mean, I could even work with a student before they register for courses at their university back home to let them know or give them advice about which courses would be best to take at Cal Lutheran. So I'd be happy to help.
Is it possible to make applications now if anybody wants to?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we extended our application and deposit deadline through June 1, so we are still accepting applications for the fall. one of the benefits for students to apply now, even though they know that they may not come in the fall, is that they can receive admission, and then we can defer that admission until next year. They wouldn't have to submit a new application. They wouldn't have to do a new essay or recommendations. The only thing new that they would have to submit is new transcripts if they had, coursework at another university. And so we would be able to honor that,
And
that admission.
how will you honor how will you handle gap years then if somebody because of COVID is taking a gap year and planning to come next year? So even with the situation, there is not much to do here in India also.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So we are anticipating. Actually, was just in a meeting yesterday about this because we're anticipating students in the U.S. and overseas are going to choose to do a gap year. Um, so it's a similar process. There's actually just a really short form that we would have the students fill out after they're admitted. Now, there's two different routes the student could take. If they submit a tuition deposit, then it actually puts everything on hold and guarantees they'll have the same scholarship, the same financial aid, the same need-based aid. Everything is guaranteed that next year. If students don't want to put in a deposit, what we'll do is we'll still honor the admission decision, and then based on kind of the criteria for that next year, we may reassess the scholarship. In most cases, the scholarship would actually go up a little bit and not go down. But for students who want to either transfer after 1 year or even just want to do a gap year, we will defer them for up to 1 year. And in some cases, case by case, we can even defer for more.
Okay, thank you. Sangeeta, do you have some questions?
Oh, Citizen. No, I'm listening. I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, just in case if you have any questions, you can ask.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll keep in touch if I have any question with Dean. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. And we have had students from your school enroll at Cal Lutheran before, and yeah, and unfortunately we haven't had from Dehradun, but in the future hopefully we will.
Yeah.
In terms
So,
of students from
can you give me a rough idea, like how much would be the total cost for a student for a year about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll go back to that slide on finances. Let's go back. So without scholarships, the tuition, housing, food, fees, everything is about 60,000 US per year. But again, students do receive quite generous scholarships and aid. I would say the average financial aid award this year for international students will be about 25,000 on average, and that's for students that have some need-based aid, some scholarship, and so they would still have to pay for average financial aid package, still have to pay about 35,000. However, as I mentioned, we do have some students who are getting up to $36,000 in aid from Cal Lutheran total, which really puts tuition at closer to about 10,000 plus room and board.
And how about work permit? Are they allowed to work on campus, off campus to manage their living just in case if they want to?
Absolutely, yeah. So the answer is absolutely yes. They can work on campus for sure, and they can work on campus right away. All they have to do is work with our student employment office, find a job, and my office is always happy to help and put in a good recommendation. Once they receive a job offer from a campus job, then they would work with our International Students and Scholars Office to apply for a temporary Social Security card and have that work permit to work on campus. Working off campus, there are a couple criteria that they have to meet first. They have to have been in the U.S. usually for about 2 semesters in a row, and then they have to apply for what's called CPT, Curricular Practical Training. It can't just be a part-time job. It has to be something related to their course of study. So for students to get approval to work off campus, in most cases, it has to be approved by the international student advisor as well as their academic or their major advisor as well. So if a student in marketing is offered an internship that's paid off campus at a marketing firm, that's definitely possible, but only after year one. There are some cases that students can apply for financial hardship with U.S. government to work off campus. One of the difficult things with that is that the fee to get approved to work off campus is several $100s, and usually students are applying for that because they need money, not that they have a lot of money sitting around to apply for that. And with work rules in the U.S. right now, it is a little bit more challenging, but it definitely is possible for them to work on campus. We have many students who work across many different jobs on campus, international students. We don't bar them from working on campus.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful session, Dane.
Good.
I'm sorry we had so many questions
No,
throwing
don't
at you.
apologize for that. That's the best thing. I love questions. I'd much rather hear what you
Yeah,
want to talk about than
it's actually easy for us to communicate further to students and parents if we have enough idea about it.
Yep.
And I really loved the career counseling department. I hope they are doing helping students, because that's what I feel is very important these days. So that's really nice.
It is, and I think the approach that we take is a lifelong approach. In terms of building skills that students will use not just for their first or second placement, but for their entire life. And all of our career services are open and free for alumni for as long as they want it. So I ran into a student recently who graduated about 15 years ago, had already gone on and done some other work, but he came back because he wants to change jobs. And so he had an appointment with a career counselor one-on-one to help him with his resume. And at no charge or no fee or anything. And so it really is more of a lifespan approach that we take to these services that we provide, which I think is really
It is.
Yep.
That's very nice. Thank you so much, Dane, for a lovely
Any
session.
other question?
No, we are good. I think we are done.
Great.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you
thank
so much.
you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Dane.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.
That was very informative. And thank you, Linda. Thank you, Kshitija, ma'am. And thank you, Sangeeta, for joining us.
Thank you so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you too.
So, then you
Thank
have a
you,
good day.
everyone.
Rest of us.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye. Good night. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you once
Bye.
again.
Bye.
Yeah, take care. Stay safe.
You too.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.